Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom.
I want to welcome everyone to Congregation Beth Tikva. I know we have a number of friends and family who are visiting with us tonight, many from out of town, and so on behalf of our entire congregational family, I want to welcome you all to our congregation to celebrate Shabbat and to celebrate what is a wonderful milestone and a wonderful moment for each of our adult Bnai Mitzvah students who are going to be celebrating with us this week and next week. We are blessed to have 25 students in our adult Bnai Mitzvah class this year. My name is Rabbi Rick Kellner, and tonight I am joined on the bima by
John Stefano.
And we welcome Julie Sapper as well, who, as always, provides us with such beautiful accompaniment and music direction on the piano. We are going to begin welcoming Shabbat together on page 10 with the words of Hine Matovu Manayim. How wonderful it is to sit and be together to celebrate as friends.
Hine matovu manayim, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matovu manayim, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov, shevet achim gam yachad. Shevet ahim gam yahad, hine matovu manayim. Shevet ahim gam yahad, hine matovu manayim. Shevet ahim gam yahad. Thank you.
Thank you. There's more. Let me use this as an opportunity to tell us that there'll be moments where we wish to say yay, and there'll be moments where we wish to applaud. I want us to remember these two words, Yashar, Koach. These are the words we say after someone has done something wonderful in this sanctuary. If they've lifted the Torah, if they've been called to the Torah as for an aliyah. These are the words we say, Yashar Koach. So perhaps after someone from our class delivers words, we might say Yashar Koach. Or after they collectively chant Torah together, we say Yashar Koach. These are the words that we say. It's a wonderful thing to greet someone. It means, may you have strength. May you find that meaningful strength that sustains us as a people as we celebrate tonight. So thank you for your yay. It's wonderful enthusiasm. And
it's only one small step from yay to Yesher Koach.
Yeah, there you go. Each of us is at a different stage in our lives. Many of us are at a different stage in our adult life. I want to share with you the words of a woman, Professor Helen B. And she writes in a text called The Journey of Adulthood. Whatever your age, you are traveling, moving through the years and through the changes and transformations that come with the years. Every journey is unique. No two adult lives are exactly alike. Amidst the variability, there are some typical itineraries, some commonly shared experiences, some shared lessons or tasks. There are things that are similar. There are moments that are unique. And for each of the members of our adult Bnai Mitzvah class, their lives have journeyed from many different places They'll share with you those moments of the journey tonight. And they find themselves meeting together at this moment. And this moment stands like a crossroads in whichever direction we may choose to travel. For each of our members of our adult Bnai Mitzvah class, they will remember this moment. And it's not just this moment, but it's the journey that they've taken over the past 9 months to study, to learn, to journey, to arrive at this spot in the wilderness of adult life. For some, we'll taste that moment of being in our promised land tonight when they are called to the Torah for the first time. Even though you've been practicing, it's different when you do it in the actual moment. The words don't change, though, don't worry. It feels different. So here we are for our adult Bnai Mitzvah class. They stand on one side of the Jordan River, ready to cross over into the promised land. And in the book of Joshua, God instructs Joshua, prepare to cross the Jordan into the land. Be strong and resolute. Do not be terrified or dismayed, for Adonai your God is with you wherever you go. And so as we cross over this moment in our journey, we are reminded that God is with us at this moment and at every moment whenever we enter this moment of unknown. I'd like to invite our representative from our Board of Trustees, Ernie Mandel, to share with us some words of welcome and some announcements.
Yay. Shabbat Shalom. I'm Ernie Mandel, your first Vice President of the Board. Welcome to all of our families and guests this evening, and we honor and celebrate the adult Bnai Mitzvahs. A special mazel tov to Leah Fogel, who will celebrate her bat mitzvah tomorrow morning. Many thanks to our temple administrator, Debbie Vinoker, our staff, Rachel, Joanne, and Rachel, and our wonderful custodial team for their hard work to make this evening a success. And to the ritual committee and our greeters for their warm welcome to everyone here. And might I say that this room is beaming right now. You're all, what a wonderful night this is at Beth Tikva. The Oneg sponsors invite the congregation to have a nash at the conclusion of the services, as there's so much to celebrate. I've been told that there's a lot to celebrate with the Bnai Mitzvah, and I understand that I've been told that the age range goes from 29 to a maximum of 39 this evening. I now want to invite you to turn to one another and introduce yourselves to your neighbors and wish each of you a Shabbat Shalom. And Shabbat Shalom to all of you.
I'd like to invite us all to turn in our prayer books to page 2, and I'd like to invite Shari Fogel to bless our Shabbat candles on page 2.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotzav v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shal Shabbat.
Baruch
Mazel tov to you. She doing okay? Okay. I'm gonna come down and get her for the
Asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Shabbat.
We turn to the back of our prayer books on page 344 as we begin to welcome Shabbat with the words of Psalm 96, Shiru Ladonai Kol Haaretz, sing unto God all the earth a new song.
Shiru Ladonai Kol Haaretz, Shiru Ladonai Shir Hadash, Shiru Ladonai Kol Haaretz, Shiru Ladonai Kol Hadash. Sing unto God all the earth a new song. I will sing unto God a new song. Sing unto God and we'll all sing along. All the earth a new song unto God. Shiru Ladonai Kol Haaretz, Shiru Ladonai Shir Hadash. All the earth a new song unto God.
Throughout our service, we'll be hearing about the journey and the impact that this experience has had on each of our bar and bat mitzvah students. And so I'd like to call upon Darla Abraham, followed by Cindy Barker, to share with us their words.
Check. We all have bucket lists. I've just had the privilege to check off one of the most important items on my personal list. It's been there for a very long time, since my children were here in Hebrew school at Beth Tikva. I recall clearly having a conversation with my BFFs, Patty and Debbie, about how we should have our own bat mitzvah someday. It may have seemed like idle talk, but it was incredibly important to us, and I personally want to thank Rabbi Kellner and our fellow congregants, all of you, for giving us the opportunity to study and learn and become Bnei Mitzvah as adults. I remember when my kids were writing their Bnei Mitzvah speeches, full of confidence about their impending adulthood and promises to keep their rooms clean. They grew into amazing adults, grounded by the values of their religion that they learned here. As far as their rooms, that's their spouse's problem now. Becoming a bat mitzvah later in life has given me a different kind of confidence. This experience has reinforced the rightness of my decision to convert to Judaism in 1984. I'm a child of a mixed marriage of the 1950s. My father was a Jew with a complicated relationship with his religion, my mother a Christian. I was raised nominally Christian, but the pull of Judaism began as early as high school, when I began to think about my personal sense of values and my place in the world. It took a long time, but when I married into the Abraham family, Lee had an important request, that we raise our children as Jews. I will be forever grateful that he asked this of me. Instead of merely raising our children in a Jewish environment, I decided to convert, setting a path for our family that has given us all an important sense of meaning in the world and a tremendous sense of community here at Beth Tikva. Now, the Abraham family comes from a very long line of Cincinnati German Jews. Some of you know what I mean. Ultra-reform, ultra-assimilated, been known to hang stockings on the mantle in December. When I converted, it caused some consternation among the family. I insisted on lighting a Hanukkah menorah. We held Passover seders and lit Shabbat candles. I fasted on Yom Kippur. My brother-in-law Rick has told me for 30 years that for a shiksa, I'm the most Jewish member of the family. Well, Rick, today you are certainly right. I am proud to say that I am the first member of this elder generation of Abrahams to have celebrated a bar or bat mitzvah. No pressure. Studying for my bat mitzvah has been an exhilarating experience. The classes taught by Rabbi Kellner and Mirza Freiberg helped reinforce lessons that I learned when converting, as well as giving me a deeper understanding of the tenets of Reform Judaism that will enhance my worship experience, my sense of God, and my role in this world for the rest of my life. I could never have foreseen how the I Engage lectures would offer me such a significantly more nuanced view of Israel and its challenging role in world affairs. My thanks to Rabbi Kellner for exposing us to this very valuable adult education experience. But for me, the most meaningful aspect of this bat mitzvah training has been learning Hebrew. I had no background whatsoever and was quite concerned about my ability to get this 62-year-old brain to learn a new language that has an unfamiliar alphabet and structure. I loaded the children's Aleph Bet song on my iPod and sang it repeatedly while on walks in the neighborhood. YouTube instruction videos and private lessons from my more experienced girlfriends were invaluable. And with my deepest thanks to our beloved teacher, Valia Bergelson, I learned. I cannot tell you how incredible this has been. Reading from the Torah has reinforced my link to the Jewish people and our shared Jewish faith. I will be forever, ever grateful for this experience. Thank you all.
Shabbat Shalom. In July 1945, 16-year-old Annabelle Wald was working in a Connecticut labor camp to earn much-needed money to help support her and her mother. Her father had died years before, and times were very tough. Despite the harsh camp conditions, the ever-protective Annabelle wrote the following to her mother, Celia, in a letter that month. Dearest Mom, this place is really beautiful, and I'm not kidding. We live in a cedar cabin that is surrounded by a gorgeous lake. It's really what you read about in a book. It's lovely and oh so nice. Sure, we start work at 5:15 a.m., but we go to bed at 9 p.m. Don't worry, it's going to be loads of fun. My brothers and I never knew our grandmother Celia. She died a few months after this letter was written, after our mother Annabelle had written the letter. I often wonder what life was like for our mom then, fending for herself at age 17. She got through it with hard work, determination, the love and support of my dad, our Aunt Pearl and her family, friends, and people that she really loved. And frankly, with a large dose of the determination that some of us just call just being Annabelle. Mom graduated from high school, got married, graduated from college, had 3 children, and also got her master's degree. Later had 4 wonderful grandchildren, many of whom carry on her just being Annabelle personality traits, and I'm looking at my son right now. And then last June arrived the first great-grandchild, who is aptly named after her. Along with the good life that she created, Mom faced many hardships along the way. Her final challenge was terminal cancer. Soon after she was diagnosed, she reminded me of a commitment I had made to her, my husband, and children years ago, that I would someday become bat mitzvah. Just before she died, when the rabbi was reciting the Vidui, I suddenly realized that to do her and my family justice, I had to take a leap of faith and embark on the journey that led me to where I stand today. So, here I am, here we are, thanks to my mother, my wonderful husband Tim, our children, Kara and Jacob, my dad and stepmom, family, friends, classmates, coworkers, and our teachers, Valia, who's been just absolutely wonderful, Rabbi Kellner for his wisdom and guidance, and Marissa for everything that she's done for us. It's been terrific. I also am here because of something that my mother gave me, that just being Annabelle, determination. Our Torah portion contains a similar message. In it, God tells Moses to tell Aaron to make a lampstand, a hammered work of gold, hammered from base to pedal, a sacred ritual object, a menorah that is now found in synagogues and is a national symbol of Israel. Throughout the centuries, ritual objects like the menorah have often been left behind, desecrated, stolen, as Jews have faced banishment, persecution, and oppression. But they, like the Jewish people, like my mother, have persevered. Why? Because while our oppressors can take our objects and even our lives, we will always have our determination, our Torah, our history, prayers, each other, and our rituals. It's our story. It's our story. It will continue just like the legacy my mother left our family. Thank you, Mom, and Shabbat Shalom.
So let's try it one more time. Yasher Koach. Let's try it again. Yasher. As our class will teach you, practice makes permanent. So hopefully we'll get the Yasher Koach going, because I think it's a nice thing for each of our students, our learners, our adults to hear, especially after they've chanted Torah together. We turn to pages 20 and 21 for the words of Lecha Dodi, and we'll sing verses 1, 2, and 9 as we welcome the Shabbat bride.
Lecha Dodi likrat kala, Bnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, Bnei Shabbat nekabela. Shamor v'zakur b'dibur ehad hishmi'anu el hamiuchad Adonai echad u'shemo echad l'shem u'tiferet v'litila. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, Bnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat Shabbat, Bnei Shabbat nekabela. Likrat Shabbat lehu v'nechicha, ki machor Abraham merosh mikdem nezucha sof maaseh b'machshava tila. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, Bnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, Bnei Shabbat nekabela. It boi v'shalom ateret bala, gam besimcha uv'tzolatochnei am segula boi chala, boi chala.
לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. May be seated. We now invite Debbie Ecker and Shelley Engler to share their words.
Tradition. It's one of the watchwords of my faith, and it explains many of my behaviors. I grew up in Cleveland, Ohio, the last of 4 children of my parents, Kenneth and Sally Pidlock, both of whom were Holocaust survivors, and each the sole survivor of their families in Poland. One might expect that their horrendous experiences might have caused them to lose faith and to question a God who had not intervened as their families were exterminated simply because they were Jews. But my parents instead decided to embrace a new life in America, the land of opportunity for them. And they taught the 4 of us kids to be proud Jews, an example to the world that Hitler did not succeed after all. And how better to instill us with pride in who we were than to practice our beautiful traditions and to encourage us to teach them in turn to our children, as commanded in the Via Havta. From the lighting of Shabbat candles to the high holiday services with their beautiful, soulful melodies, to our observance of Kashrut in our home, to our wonderful Passover Seders presided over by my dad. It's the traditions that really inspired me. I love the realization that our ancestor has practiced these very traditions for generations, and now it was our turn. When Bob and I married, we did our best to carry on these traditions and to make them meaningful to our children. When I was deciding about whether to participate in this Bnai Mitzvah program, I wasn't sure it was for me. I had learned to read Hebrew, after all, fluently in the shul of my youth in an Orthodox congregation, but bat mitzvahs were not done in that congregation. So now was my chance to read from the Torah. But what really spoke to me was what Rabbi Rick asked us to do the very first time that we met with him. He said, dedicate your learning to someone. It took me very little time to comply. I took out my book and I wrote on the cover, learning, dedicated to my children, Kenny, Danny, and Julie. May they ever be strong links in the chain of our family's traditions and leaders in their communities. It occurred to me that more important than the opportunity to read from the Torah, which has been a wonderful experience, was the opportunity to carry on traditions and to model for my children and grandchildren that our Jewish traditions are precious and worthy of instilling in each generation. And active participation is always welcome, no matter how old or young you may be. We have a favorite poem in our family. It says, birth is a beginning and death a destination. Life is a journey, and looking backward or ahead, we see that victory lies not at some high place along the way, but in having made the journey stage by stage, a sacred pilgrimage. My personal journey leading to chanting Torah this evening has indeed been a sacred pilgrimage, and by chanting Torah, preceded in doing so by my husband Bob, by my 3 children, Kenny, Danny, Julie, by my daughter-in-law, Suzanne, and my soon-to-be daughter-in-law, Hillary. I feel that I have strengthened my own link in the chain of our family's traditions. In addition to my family, I'm grateful to Rabbi Kellner, to Valia Bergelson, to Marissa Freiberg for their tutelage, patience, and good humor. Our meetings during the last 9 months have been inspirational as well as instructive, and have renewed my determination to do my part to ensure Jewish continuity. This evening, I'm wearing the talit that was worn by my dad, by my brothers, by my 2 boys, and I'll be using a yad that was brought from Israel just last week by my daughter. So, here's to tradition, and Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. My personal bat mitzvah journey had its roots in my childhood. As a child growing up in Pittsburgh, my family belonged to the Reformed Temple Rosh Hashanah. At that time, Rabbi Solomon Tzvi Freehoff, was the senior rabbi and was known as the father of Reform Judaism. Although bar and bat mitzvahs were an expected rite of passage for the conservative young Jewish adult, it was the philosophy at Rodef Shalom Temple that this practice was not a part of the Torah. And so according to our temple, I was not permitted to have a bat mitzvah at age 13. Since my Jewish friends included those I went to temple with, I did not realize what I was missing in terms of my Jewish identity. And as many of you have come to realize, my parents certainly were able to save a bundle of money. After marriage and graduate school, my husband Phil and I moved to Cleveland, where we joined Temple Emmanuel. Although it was considered to be a Reformed temple, it had many of the conservative traditions that Phil had grown up with. An exciting part of the educational curriculum was that it had a parent-child Hebrew class, and Phil became the dedicated parent. It was a win-win for both Phil and my sons. Phil could refresh some of his Hebrew skills, and our boys had a built-in tutor. Without realizing it at the time, I was again pushing aside the Jewish education I had missed out on as a child. However, it was during a conversation with my younger son, Seth, some years ago, when he challenged my belief in Judaism by stating, "But you don't go to temple every week," that I am now able to more clearly reflect upon that as being the pivotal conversation which originally planted the seed that has led me to follow the path of becoming a bat mitzvah. Fast forward to last summer, the summer of 2013. I had just retired at the end of the year and was beginning to think about what I was going to do with all my spare time. I had read in Tikva Topics that Beth Tikva was planning on having a Bnai Mitzvah class starting in August, and I thought it was about time that I began to get in touch with my inner Jewish self. Coincidentally, Rabbi Rick was leading a tour to Israel in the summer, and Phil suggested that we should celebrate our milestone anniversary by traveling on that trip. Thanks to a generous gift given to us by my father-in-law, Sam Engler, Phil and I were able to join Rick in what became a trip that cemented my decision to enroll in this Bnai Mitzvah class. I felt it was time to better understand who I was as a Jew, and in a very practical sense, I wanted to be able to sit in a service and not only read the Hebrew text instead of the transliteration, but also to be able to understand the Hebrew I was reading as well. For me, this was the beginning of my adult Jewish identity. Where do I go from here? I have been able to connect musically. I play with an extraordinary group of musicians during our monthly Shabbat Alive service, and I connect prayerfully as I sit in services now and follow along with Hebrew text. Finally, I embrace the intellectual challenge during our weekly classes by grappling with questions such as, why am I a Jew? And what does it mean to be a Jew? Luckily for me, there are no wrong answers. The rest is history, my history in the making. Personally, the trip to Israel, my enrolling in this Bnai Mitzvah class, culminating with participating in this service, has provided not only an end, but a beginning. For me, it has merely opened up a door to allow me to quench my thirst in order to find out more about the history of my ancestors and the perilous journey that they have had to endure so that I could stand here today proud to be part of my heritage in a country that allows me to practice Judaism, but most importantly, I am able to be recognized as a Jew in a temple that allows me to practice Judaism on my own terms, and hopefully with continued study will allow me to continue to find my own personal connection to my inner Jewish self. Thank you.
We rise together and turn in our Sidurim, our prayer books, to page 28, the words of the Baruch Hu.
Lie, 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 lie. Lie, 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 lie. Lie, 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 lie. Lie, 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 lie. Barechu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed.
May be seated. We invite Jackie Kahn, followed by Rhonda Moskowitz, to share the words of their journey.
Shabbat Shalom. Never in my wildest dream did I think I would be making a bat mitzvah speech. My journey began on October 7th, 1966, at Temple Israel in Lawrence, New York, the day I was consecrated. At that time, girls did not have bat mitzvahs. I attended religious school through the 8th grade, at which time my parents outgrew belonging to the temple. By then, my 2 older brothers had already become bar mitzvah and confirmed. My family was not very religiously observant. We did not celebrate Shabbat with candle lighting or family dinners, but we did celebrate Passover and Hanukkah, and I always remember my mother lighting yahrzeit candles. Before my husband Mitchell and I got married, I took a beginning Hebrew class so I could feel more confident in reciting my vows in Hebrew. After we married, we both felt that living a Jewish life and raising our 2 children, Sarah and Joseph, as such was important. We were living in Princeton, New Jersey at the time, and though we always found a place to have high holiday services, we didn't join a synagogue until we moved to North Carolina when Sarah was 4 years old. Even though I joined and was involved with the Temple Sisterhood, I always felt that something was missing. As I sat in services and I tried to follow along with the prayers, matching as many of the Hebrew words as I could, I always wished I could read them without transliteration. We moved to Ohio when Joe was 4 and enrolled him in the JCC North Preschool. That was my first Columbus Jewish connection, and 18 years later, I'm still friends with a lot of the people I've met through the JCC. We joined Beth Tikva right away so Sarah could start religious school and her Hebrew training. Over the years, I've attended many services and events here, including Sarah's bat mitzvah, Joe's bar mitzvah. As they prepared for their special days, I was a little envious, as I did not have the chance to have my own life cycle event. As I continued attending services, I still felt lost among some of the parts of the service. 2 years ago, I met Rabbi Rick, and I felt an instant connection. After all, I discovered that he grew up near where I did on Long Island, and he attended a summer camp that I had worked at a few years earlier. Well, okay, more than just a few years. When I read in the temple newsletter that he was going to have an adult Bnai Mitzvah class, I thought about joining it, but I didn't do anything other than think about it. I was scared. A few years earlier, my husband had attended a friend's adult Bnai Mitzvah service, and I remember thinking, wow, What an amazing thing to do as an adult, but didn't think I could ever do it myself. While talking to Debbie Ecker and Shelley Igdaloff before High Holiday services last fall, I discovered that they were both going to take the class. I mentioned that I had thought about taking it too, and with a little encouragement from both of them, I decided if they could do it, I could do it too. Having friends to lean on during this adventure seemed less scary than doing it alone. As it turned out, at the first class, I already knew most of the group who were embarking on this journey with me. Last fall, I had an opportunity to visit my old temple. As I wandered through the building, it brought back memories of many of the services I attended. High holiday services, my two brothers' bar mitzvahs and confirmations, my friends' bar mitzvahs, and even my former classmates' confirmation. I remembered that we had always chanted my favorite prayer, the Via Hafta, in English, and that at the Friday night Shabbat service before my brother Stephen's bar mitzvah, my beloved cantor, David Benedict, noted that I had chanted it from memory. But I also remembered that I always felt cheated that I was not permitted to have a bat mitzvah. Ironically, in June 1973, 1 month before my 13th birthday, the congregation approved that bat mitzvah ceremonies would be incorporated in the Shabbat morning worship. Unfortunately, that was too late for me. As I returned to Columbus and my Bnai Mitzvah class, I realized that taking the class was one of the best ways to erase that feeling of being cheated and filling a void in my religious life. This class has deepened my connection to my Jewish self by choosing to be a participant rather than just going through the motions. The knowledge I've gained has opened a doorway to connect with things that were there but just weren't in the forefront. During this class, I have met and become friends with and shared a life-changing experience with some wonderful people that I may not have otherwise had any connection. For this I am grateful, and I'm looking forward to continuing our friendships. Thank you, Rabbi Rick, Valia, and Marissa for guiding me through this journey. Thank you to my husband Mitchell and my children Sarah and Joseph for their support. And a special thank you to my mother-in-law Becky for the gift of my new talit. I am eager to proudly wear it at many services in the years to come. I feel I have now earned the right to wear it. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. So first I have to say thank you to my husband, who I think was prouder than me of doing this, to my 3 children, Miriam, Rebecca, and Zach, who when I told them I was going to do this said, great, go for it. My brother who came from New York, my sister-in-law and brother-in-law who came from California, coast to coast, let's get this, all my friends who are here for me tonight, and all of you, all my Beth Tikva family who came for all of us, and the other half of us who are out here. And thank you, Rabbi, Marissa, and Valia. Boy, am I your fan. I talk about you all the time. Okay, what is so scary that it wakes you up in the middle of the night in an absolute, total panic? How about the idea of standing in front of a couple of hundred people chanting Torah with no vowels? Is the hair on the back of your neck standing up yet? I was terrorized just thinking about this. I came to this Bnai Mitzvah class with 2 things: a very rudimentary knowledge of Hebrew and a clear understanding of how to do Jewish that I got from my quintessentially New York Jewish family. You know us, we were the ones whose grandparents really did come over on the boat. I grew up surrounded by how to light Shabbat candles, how to prepare and organize a Seder, how to remember to not touch the light switches on high holidays. Spoiler alert, Band-Aids over the light switches. I knew how to follow a Friday night service, but I never understood why. So why these prayers? Why in this order? What does it mean? What's the story behind all of this? I stand here today on the backs of all of my ancestors. Being Jewish is deeply ingrained in my blood. But that was not enough, because I never really understood the why of all of this, or where I fit into this long line of Jewish learning and living. So I took a risk, and I decided to participate in this Bnai Mitzvah class. The experience has been both a challenge and an opportunity. I didn't learn how to read Hebrew without and with vowels overnight. And let's not forget, we all had to learn the tropes, those very precise tunes that you sing for various phrases of the Torah portion. This was not a cakewalk. It's been work, but it's also been a great gift. My community has grown. I've had the chance to meet and to really get to know new people and reacquaint myself with others who I've crossed paths with over the years. These are my mishpacha now. There's 25 of us. We were here to learn, but there was also a lot of laughter. And, because we're Jewish, food. Since one of the whys that I was craving was to understand the meaning of the prayers that we say at the Shabbat service, when I found out that I was going to be co-leading the Aleinu tonight, it gave me the impetus to really try to understand its significance. All the prayers that we say express gratitude. The focus of the Aleinu in particular is to thank God for making us a unique people among nations. And I really kind of struggled with that until I got to the end of it, and it's the part that begins with V'na Amar, because that part talks about the hope for the future, a day in which all people will believe in one God. I've learned about things that weren't even on my radar. I was particularly taken with the picture of Talmudic rabbis duking it out over hundreds of years to clarify a word or a phrase of Torah. I love that they wrote up and back to each other. The most startling learning was about Rashi, who wrote the commentary on the Torah 1,000 years ago. Did you know that his words are always printed close to the binding of the book? Because just in case the book burns, how does a book burn? From the outside in. And if the whole book doesn't burn, his words are saved. So what we do today comes from these writings hundreds and hundreds, 1,000 years ago. These are the whys that I was searching for. And then, of course, the elephant in the room. Never in my wildest imagination did I think that I could chant Torah. With the support of my incredible teacher, our incredible teacher, and my husband, who stood behind me, supported me, and said, you can, you will, and I did. I really did it. I am beyond proud of myself. And what I'm... So somebody had to say that, right? I'll speak for all of them. What I learned is that if I can do this, oh, I can do anything. And if I can do this, you can do this too. That's the ad for next year's class. Thank you.
We turn in our prayer books to page 34 and 35 and we rise for a moment for the words of the Shema.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem Kevod Malhuto Leolam Vaed.
You may be seated. Invite everyone to join with Leah Fogel on page 36. Leah will become bat mitzvah tomorrow, and she will lead us in the words of the Ve'ahavta as we join with her, page 36.
Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha
בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך ופשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובישעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, הייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם אלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם. Yasher Koach, there you go. We now invite Stacey O'Connell, followed by Patty Price, to share the words of their journey.
Shabbat Shalom. My journey began by being born Jewish and being raised Jewish, but that doesn't automatically mean feeling a connection with Judaism. My parents wanted their children to feel that connection, but being raised in a small southern town of 4,000 and being the only Jewish family made it quite difficult. Fast forward to adulthood, and I married a wonderful Catholic boy from Pennsylvania, John O'Connell, who graciously agreed that we would raise our children Jewish. We started our lives together in Columbus, Ohio. I felt that finding Beth Tikva was immediately going to help me feel that connection that I began longing for. It did not. Then we had children, and I knew it would happen. Hannah and Owen started religious school, and I started feeling comfortable with Judaism, but I knew in order to feel the connection that I was longing for, I needed to put forth more effort. I knew in my heart that I needed to do something more so that Hannah and Owen would grow up feeling that connection to Judaism. I had spoken with Rabbi Rick and knew that an adult Bnai Mitzvah class was going to start in the fall of 2013. I also knew I was quite frightened at the thought of learning Hebrew and getting prepared for my bat mitzvah. I found out that my friend Wendy was joining the class along with her friend Carol Sliger. The pieces were fitting together, and I then knew it was possible. Over these last 9 months, I have learned so much. The topics each week ranged from studying Torah, Midrash, Talmud, Mitzvot, to what is currently happening in Israel as we were part of the I Engage class. A favorite night for me was when we learned about Shabbat and how to make Shabbat a special time for each week. That there is no right or wrong way to observe, just to recognize tranquility, serenity, peace, and be in the moment. I am also thrilled that I can now read Hebrew. Not so well, but I can read it. I have met many new people who also encouraged me along the way. But the most important thing that I have learned is that I want to continue my Jewish learning as an individual and with my family. I want to thank you, Wendy and Carol, for all of your support and help over these 9 months and the rest of our Bnai Mitzvah class. It has been a fun ride. I also appreciate you, Valia, for having so much patience with me as I slowly started grasping Hebrew, and Rabbi Rick and Marissa for your wonderful guidance and teaching. I also want to thank my sister Jamie, who was unable to make the trip from Atlanta, and my 2 friends, Anita and Amanda, for all of your support these last 9 months, as well as my mother and father-in-law for coming tonight and supporting me. But most importantly, I want to thank John, Hannah, and Owen for your sacrifices as you let me attend class every Monday night, as well as for the nights that Wendy, Carol, and I held extra study sessions. I conclude with two conflicting emotions on this night. One is the happiness that I feel in having more of a connection with Judaism and being Jewish, but the other is sadness that I feel because my parents are no longer living to share this special occasion with me. Thank you. Shabbat Shalom.
Oh, that's a hard one to follow. Got me crying. Shabbat Shalom. It's hard to believe that just a year ago, I was completing my term as president of Beth Tikvah and was deeply involved in planning weddings for my two oldest children. It was quite a busy year, and after devoting myself to the temple for a long time and planning these important family events, I decided I was ready to do something for myself. Becoming a bat mitzvah has been on my bucket list for years. My closest friends and I had been talking about becoming a Bnai mitzvah since our children were little. When I read last summer that there would be an adult Bnai mitzvah class starting after the high holidays, I knew that it was a perfect time for me to dedicate myself to studying and preparing for a bat mitzvah. I sent a massive email out to all my friends and asked them to join me in this year's class. When I found out that 5 board members had already signed up, I was so excited. As you know, we have 25 members in our class, the largest adult mitzvah class group ever at Beth Tikvah. My parents belonged to an Orthodox temple while we were growing up. I attended religious school and Hebrew school for years, but girls were not allowed to become bat mitzvah. My parents divorced when I was 13, and my mom joined a conservative temple, but it was too late for me to have a bat mitzvah. I admired my friends who had bar and bat mitzvahs at our new synagogue, but I was confirmed there. Growing up, I had a lot of friends that were Jewish, was active in the temple youth group, and actually tutored Hebrew. It was always important to me to have Jewish friends and be involved with my religion in high school and college. My husband, Sid, is a great guy and my best friend. We have 3 children, Mindy, Jeffrey, and Johnny, and will soon be grandparents. Sid's parents were Holocaust survivors, and it was very important to us to raise our children Jewish, teaching them all about our traditions and our culture. We joined Beth Tikvah shortly after moving to Worthington, and our daughter Mindy started in the Beth Tikvah preschool. This was a great way to meet young families with kids the same age as ours. Years later, we started our own Havurah, the Fun Club, which is still very active. Beth Tikvah is a very special place to our family. We do not have relatives in Columbus, so our temple friends became our extended family. So after raising 3 children, serving on many board positions at Beth Tikvah, and volunteering, it was time for me to study and have my bat mitzvah. I loved reviewing and learning the Hebrew language again. When you want to do something as an adult, you have to put in a lot of time to gain knowledge. I tried very hard to learn as much as I could. I enjoyed making flashcards and working to translate the meaning of all the Hebrew words that we learned from our stories. I would take my assignments to Florida, where my late father-in-law, Abe Price, loved to help me study. I'll never forget him sitting in our condo living room, helping me find the find words in the Hebrew English dictionary. He was so proud that I was going to have a bat mitzvah. My family was also very proud that I was so active in the congregation. For years, my father always praised and listened to everything that was going on at Beth Tikvah. He would give me advice, and I would take it back to our meetings here in Columbus. Both my parents and my in-laws would be so proud today. They always wanted their children to continue learning and give back to the community. By participating in this class, I really enjoy going to services even more now. I can read and chant Hebrew so much better because of the studying we did this year. I would like to become even more fluent in my Hebrew reading and understanding of the prayers. I want to thank Valia, Marissa, and Rabbi Kellner for being our teachers. This has been a really special year for me. I've learned a lot and shared this learning experience with my closest friends. I have built new relationships with my fellow students and congregants of Beth Tikva that will last a lifetime. I encourage any of you, male or female, who have never had a bar or bat mitzvah, to join the next class. Shabbat Shalom.
We continue on page 40 with the words of Mi Chamocha as we think of our own people's journey from bondage to freedom. The words of Mi Chamocha, the reminder of the great miracle as we walked towards freedom through parted waters. Page 40, Mi Chamocha.
Mi kamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha neheda b'kodesh nora tehilot, osef ele nora tehilot, osef ele. Yum biddy bum bum bye bye, yum biddy bum bum bye bye, yum bye bye yum bye bye, yum biddy bum bum bye bye, yum biddy bum bum bye bye, yum biddy bum bum bye bye, yum bye bye yum bye bye, yum bum bye bye bye. Adonai imloch leolam vaed, leolam 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 vaed. Yum biddy bum bum bye bye, yum biddy bum bum bye bye, yum bye bye yum bye bye, yum biddy bum bum bye bye, yum biddy bum bum bye bye, yum biddy bum bum bye bye, yum bye bye yum bye bye, yum bum bye bye bye.
Now I'd like to invite Josh Reinecke, followed by Diane Sachs, to share their words.
Shabbat Shalom. So why am I standing here before all of you, having a bar mitzvah when I am obviously not 13 anymore? It's a very good question, one that strangely doesn't have a very clear or profound answer. One very important answer to that is that my wife supported me in this crazy little process and encouraged me to do it even though it meant she was a single parent every Monday night for most of the school year. Thank you, Jody. I really think that my journey to this moment started in 1994. I was a senior in high school. You can now do the math, thank you, Ernie. In Bloomfield Township, Michigan. I was very active in the youth group at my family's temple, Temple Bethel, where my parents are still members today. And I happened to go to a public high school that had to cancel classes for the high holidays because there wouldn't be enough students to call it a day of school. Being Jewish was not something that I thought about a great deal. It just was. But in April of that year, I found myself and 5,000 others standing on the ruins of the crematoriums of Birkenau after having just walked a couple of kilometers from Auschwitz. It was a chilly and windy day, overcast, which made the dozens of Israeli flags flying all the more triumphant. That is when I think I began to truly feel what it was to be Jewish and how very important it was to stay Jewish and to embrace what it means to be Jewish. Now, that doesn't mean I went home and asked that my mom keep a kosher kitchen, or that I was going to grow a beard or begin wearing a black hat. Heck, I went to a United Methodist affiliated college where I was one of maybe 2 undergraduates that were Jewish out of a student population of close to 3,000. But at that April day, the wheels began turning. I knew after that, without a girlfriend at all, that I wanted my children to be Jewish. I wanted whatever kids I had to become Bnai Mitzvah, and whoever my wife was would have to accept that to have me. And now I have the Jewish wife and kids, one who has started her journey to her bat mitzvah, one who has started religious school learning the ways of his ancestors, and one who has begun to know the prayers because we say them on Friday nights. But something was missing for me. I wanted to know what it felt like to read from this most holy of scrolls, passed down for generation after generation to be learned and questioned anew with each new generation's eyes. I wanted to know what it felt like to read it in the original Hebrew, not the translations we can all find. I had no illusions that I would be able to truly read and comprehend all of the Hebrew through a condensed adult Bnai Mitzvah class, but Valia certainly tried to make that possible. But I would have a taste of it, and through a taste, hopefully, find meaning. And one of those forms of meaning was a wonderful, unexpected surprise. Before this class, I had never learned how to read Hebrew. So as my older daughter, Hannah, was going through her first year of Hebrew school, she had to turn to Jody for any help she needed. But this year, and actually just a couple of months ago, there was a night that Hannah needed help, and Jody was busy with something else. So I sat down to try and help. And while I could not fully keep up with the speed at which Hannah was reading, I caught her when she slipped on the pronunciation of some of the words. I was able to help. So now, having been through this as an adult and as a parent of a child going through the learning of Hebrew as well, I understand better what they are going through and can help them, which is what every parent wants. So why am I standing here? Because I wanted to be. And I was blessed with a family and a community that encouraged me to seek out this journey to make it possible to become a more enlightened Jew than I was yesterday. Shabbat Shalom.
I was raised in a home where being Jewish was very important. We observed and practiced all the major holidays and always had celebratory dinners with families and friends. However, my actual religious education was a bit spotty. When I was in elementary school, I attended a conservative synagogue for Hebrew and Sunday school. My memories of that period were very stern, old male rabbis. I couldn't understand a word they were saying in English, let alone Hebrew. My favorite memory of that period was walking to the bagel store that was a couple blocks away, and we would walk and buy fresh hot bagels for a nickel. Next, I attended a newly forming synagogue that was really not quite yet formed. The rabbi didn't believe in God, and Sunday school was primarily sitting around in a circle having discussions. To this day, I do not know all the Bible stories. Yet despite this very confusing early Jewish education, my identity was formed through the social aspect. I always said that I was a cultural Jew. When our sons, Jordan and Nathan, were bar mitzvahed, I really felt a connection to 5,700 years of ancestors reciting the same prayers week in and week out all over the world. It really struck me on a very emotional level. When my father passed away 13 years ago, I felt horrible that I really couldn't recite the Kaddish prayer in his honor. Over the last couple of years, as I could see my mother slowing down, I wanted to make sure that when her time came, I would be able to say Kaddish. Well, it didn't quite work out that way, as my mother passed away last December. But saying Kaddish for her was the primary reason for me to take this class. I wanted to learn to read Hebrew, say the prayers, and understand what they meant. Now I can mostly read Hebrew. There's a few letters that still give me trouble. I've been exposed to a wealth of information about Torah, commentary, Midrash, Mitzvot, God, prayer, the prophets, Israel, all doors that I want to open and walk through to explore further. I think this is fitting as our Torah portion this week discusses the ritual preparations necessary for entering the temple and getting ready for prayer. So while not my original intention, participating in the Bnai Mitzvah class has really been the beginning of my journey, not a destination. Anyone who knows me knows that I'm really connected to Beth Tikva. I love this congregation. It's my second family. I participated as a nearly full-time volunteer for many years, and I'm really lucky that my volunteer experience helped me to know and connect with many congregants. The Havurah we formed somewhere between 25 and 30 years ago, the Fun Club, had become some of our closest friends. And now, through this Bnai Mitzvah experience, I've come to know many more people. What a terrific group of interesting, kind, generous, and thoughtful people. I'm really honored to have begun my journey with those of my classmates. I want to recognize Valia. I knew she was an incredible teacher from both of our sons' bar mitzvah preparations, but Valia is also an incredible adult teacher. You could not find anyone as passionate, caring, and giving to her students, way above and beyond. Thank you to Marissa. She is so encouraging to help everyone find their own comfort level for interpreting text or practice that fits into and makes sense into their lives. And finally, thank you to Rabbi Rick. He, along with the other teachers, developed a very ambitious and thorough course of study, but it's his enthusiasm and passion that made that study really interesting and really fun. And I also want to thank my family for traveling from Los Angeles into Michigan to be here today with me, and to my incredible husband, Ron, for his continued support, always cheering me on and helping me to believe that I could really do this. You know, love you, babe.
Page 44. We join together in the words of Vishamru as we sing of our covenant of Shabbat, which brings us together as a people each week, reminds us of the sacred connection that each of us share as one community. Page 44, Vishamru.
ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם, ברית עולם, בני Israel, oti leolam. Ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai et hashamayim vefet Uvayom hashvi shavat vayinafash vayinafash shavat vayinafash shavat Shavat
We now invite Wendy Stern, followed by Carol Sliger, to share words of their journey.
Shabbat Shalom. In February 2001, Randy and I were expecting Gabriella, and we traveled to Florida to escape the winter weather. While vacationing, I asked to visit the Holocaust Museum in St. Petersburg. At that time, neither of us were religious. I had no religious identity, and while Randy grew up Jewish, he didn't really feel affiliated or connected. While at the Holocaust Museum, we came across a piece of artwork called the Jewish Family Tree. As you can imagine, it had huge branches and pieces of the trunk missing. That piece of artwork caused me to pause as I realized it represented a part of my child's heritage, her history, her family. I didn't realize at that time that I would become Jewish. I did know that I wanted to have a religious identity, but I wasn't sure what it would be. I took an inventory of my own personal values, beliefs, and morals and found a perfect alignment with Judaism. Thanks to the recommendation of our accountant, Stephen Harris, I studied with Rabbi Huber in Valia, and my children and I converted to Judaism in December of 2003. I am proud to be a Jew and even happier that I have an identity. I am home. I took an adult Hebrew class with Marissa last year, and she suggested she hoped we would consider having a bar or bat mitzvah since we knew Hebrew. I had not even considered that as an option for me personally until Marissa made the suggestion. Then Rabbi Rick offered the class, and I knew I had to attend. This journey has solidified for me, I am home. I embrace the teachings of the Torah and the pillars of Reform Judaism, commitment to lifelong learning, treating the Jewish community as a sacred community, and tikkun olam, or social justice. I love that we are called upon to think and question what we learn. We learn and we teach our children that our deeds are what matter most, not our creeds. It isn't enough to say that we believe in something, we have to act on that belief. Valia, what you taught us in 9 short months is amazing. It's amazing. Your passion and commitment ensured that 25 of us would be able to read from the Torah. Thank you. Rabbi Rick and Marissa, thank you for leading us on this meaningful journey. You both hold a very special place in my heart. To my classmates, all 25 of you, I feel a very special bond to each of you, and I am so happy to share this experience with you, especially. To Randy, Gabrielle, and Nick, I thank you for your support this year as you all juggled guitar lessons and Boy Scouts and fended for yourselves pretty much every Monday evening while I was at class. To my in-laws, thank you for never pressuring me to convert, quietly celebrating my learning experiences, and loving me whether or not I was Jewish. To my parents and siblings, thank you for all of your support throughout my journey of finding my religious identity. I know some of you questioned my decision 10 years ago, and I hope that you have seen how much I love Judaism and how very much I appreciate your support. To my congregational family, thank you. Thank you for supporting all of us through this experience. It makes me so proud to be able to say, I am home.
Yay, Shabbat Shalom. My journey has been evolving and ever-changing for as long as I can remember. I always knew we were Jewish growing up, but I also knew that we didn't practice, learn, or observe as the others around us did. We didn't go to Hebrew school or temple. We did not celebrate the holidays, other than perhaps lighting the menorah. Most of my Jewish friends observed, celebrated, and learned. I would always ask to go to high holy day services with them. I would beg to hang out at their youth group events, and luckily got invited to many a bar and bat mitzvah. And while I missed the traditions I did not have, I never felt the absence of Judaism until I moved to Columbus almost 10 years ago. The lack of Jewishness surprised me, and as time went on, I missed the familiarity of knowing there were others like me around. My spiritual world took a wonderful turn when I met Wendy Stern and noticed that she had a menorah picture on her front window. Needless to say, I was thrilled. Over the years, the Stern family has included me in seders, in attending services, and in temple events, but more importantly, in friendship and community. Wendy and I often chatted about what religion meant to each of us, and I often expressed my frustration with my lack of knowledge. When Wendy told me about the opportunity to take this class, I knew it was a learning experience I could not pass up. I've loved learning Hebrew with Valia,
while being overwhelmed with weekly classes with both Rabbi and Marissa, trying to absorb every bit of Jewish history I could make sense of. I still feel that I need Hebrew 101 to learn the history in a way that gives me the foundation to further explore what my religion means to me. I love the chances to sit with a wonderful, intelligent bunch of people every week to hear what they have to say and share this similar goal for our Bnei Mitzvahs. Wendy always talked about how she loved the community, and I now understand what that means as my class has shared their community with me for all these months. The first steps have given me so much to think about and have reminded me how important this sense of community is for our survival. It is most relevant for me as I leave in a few days for the start of a new journey in Texas, hoping that I have as much luck finding friends and community there as I did here. Thank you to my daughter Kenzie for supporting me and letting me leave the house every Monday night. But I dedicate this journey to you, Wendy, for without you, my friend, it truly would not have happened.
We turn in our prayer books to page 46. Members of our adult B'nai Mitzvah class will lead us in the words of the Amidah on pages 46, 48, 50, and 52. After page 52, we'll continue silently to ourselves on the even-numbered pages or the odd-numbered pages, and you may remain standing or you may be seated whenever you are ready.
Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu, ve'akol Yisrael, ve'imru Yahaseh shalom, Yahaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'akol Yisrael. Yahaseh shalom, Yahaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'akol Yisrael. Yahaseh shalom, Yahaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'akol Yisrael. Yahaseh shalom, Yahaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'akol Yisrael.
We now turn in our prayer books to page 244 for Seder Kriyat HaTorah, the service for the reading of the Torah, and I invite everyone to please rise.
En kamoka va'Elohim Adonai, va'en kama'asecha, malchut ha'malchut kol olamim, u'memshalta b'chol dor v'dor. Adonai melech, Adonai malach, Adonai imloch leolam va'ed, Adonai os leshamo yitein, Adonai yevarek et amo v'shalom.
This scroll contains the secret of our people's lives from Sinai until now. Its teaching is love and justice, goodness and hope. Freedom is its gift to all who treasure it. When we first began our adult Bnai Mitzvah class, I gathered the entire group of 25 individuals in this spot. We took the Torah from the ark. We passed it through the arms of each one. And each one shared a word that they would aspire to, hope to dream that this experience would be for them. And so as we pass the Torah through the arms of our adult Bnai Mitzvah class at this moment, we recall the moment when we first understood the gift of Judaism, the gift of Torah, the gift of sacred tradition that has been passed on through any of our families to us, to entrust to us. And so we pass these words, this scroll, through the arms of our adult Bnai Mitzvah class. Be seated. Before we read from our scroll from this week's Parsha, I'd like to invite Shelley Igdaloff to share with us some words and teachings about this week's Torah portion.
Shabbat Shalom. Before I start my speech, I would like to also thank the Rabbi Marissa and Valia, but also Rabbi Huber, who I studied with for many years and probably wouldn't be here if it weren't for him, so thank you very much. In this parsha, Becha Alotcha, meaning when you step up, from the book of Numbers, the Torah speaks of instructions for installing the menorah and ordaining the priests and Levites, as well as other concepts. The parsha is explained in several ways, as is common with the Torah. When you step up or raise up the flame to light the menorah, why doesn't it just say, light the candles? Because the priest is instructed to put the flame near the wick to encourage it to ignite, thus showing a space, as small as it may seem, between the desire to light and the actual combustion of the wick due to the flame. One scholar explains that there is a considerable gap between what is real and what we think is real, what we do and what we are actually capable of doing. In this gap is a possibility of success or failure. We all have gaps. It is up to us to decide if we reach high enough to succeed or not. It is in this reach to achieve our goals, take responsibility for our actions, and grow. In researching further, I wondered why UP was so distinguished and promoted. From the particular lines that I read tonight, Aaron is told to lay his hands on the Levites and then to make an elevation or upward offering to ordain them. In our human space, we can go in many directions, forward, backward, left, right, down, up. Where is it that we most want to go? What is the most positive way to lead our lives? In our language, common idioms are raising our children, climbing a ladder of success, rising to the occasion, and thinking highly of someone. All point to the upward direction as very positive. Moving up is by far the most used metaphor for getting ahead. These phrases in the Torah encourage you to burst out of your comfort zone, reinvent yourself, think outside of the box, and strive upward. As Aaron ordains the priests and Levites, he brings them to a higher plane, thus closer to God. We can all be elevated without Aaron's hands on us and be closer to God. Look to the sky with hopes and dreams of better things. Be innovative and imaginative. Be a better, kinder, and more compassionate person and elevate yourself. Both of these interpretations instruct us to strive to be better at whatever it is we have chosen to do or to be. This is what my parents taught me and what Barry and I have tried to instill in our children, Molly, Andrew, Elise, Nathan, and Sarah, and now my son-in-law, Zach, and granddaughter, Leora. I remember my father and mother of blessed memory today, wearing my father's tallis and my mother's ring, and I'm thankful for the faith they passed down to me. And it is with that faith and hope that my children, too, will pass along the teachings of Torah. Shabbat Shalom.
If you'll all take your lovely, Carol, they're purple, your purple sheets. On one side, you'll see the Hebrew. On the other side, you'll see the English. Follow along whichever side you choose, or both if you're very talented flipping back and forth. I don't know how you'll do that, but we are now going to read from Parshat Beha'alotecha, Numbers chapter 8, verses 1 through 26. We're going to invite Valia to come and serve as our Gabait. We call the adult Bnai Mitzvah class to Torah. We also invite those who will be called to Torah next week for adult Bnai Mitzvah to please rise. before we do the blessings, I am going to ask you to save Yasher Koach and to save the Yasher Koach till all 13 of our students have chanted. So please.
Vaydaber Adonai el Moshe lemor, daber el Aharon, v'amartav ela behelota et hanerot el mul penei hamenorah ya'iru shivat hanerot.
Vayasken Aharon el mul panei hamenorah he'elaha neroteha kasher siva Adonai et Moshe v'ze maseh hamenorah miksha zahav ad yircha ad pircha Mikshayi kamar asher her Adonai et Moshe ken asaha et hamenorah.
Vayedaber Adonai el Moshe lemor, kach et haLevim mitoch bnei Yisrael, v'tiharta otam, v'chota'aseh lahem l'taharam, hazeh alehem mechatat, v'hevirutar al kol bisaram, v'chibsu bigdehem v'hiteharu.
Velachu har ben bakar uminchato solet belulav vashamen ufarsheni ben bakar tikak lechatat vahikravta et haleveim lifnei ohel mohed vahikata et kol adat b'nei Yisrael.
V'hikravta et haleviim lifnei Adonai v'samchu b'nei Yisrael et yedehem al haleviim v'haniv Aharon et haleviim tenufa lifnei Adonai me'et b'nei Yisrael v'hayu la'avod et avodat Adonai.
V'haleveim yismehu et yedehem al rosh haparim vayaseh et ha'echad hatat, ve'et ha'echad ola, l'Adonai, l'chaper al haleviim, v'ha'amadetat et haleviim, lifnei Aharon, v'lifnei vanav, v'henafta otam, tenufa l'Adonai.
והבדלת את הלוויים מתוך בני ישראל, והיו לי הלוויים. ואחרי כן יבוא הלוויים לעבוד את אוהל מועד, וטיהרת אותם, והנפת אותם תנופה.
Ki netunim, netunim hema li, mitok b'nei Yisrael, tahat pitrat kol rehem, bechor kol mi b'nei Yisrael, lakakti otam li, ki li chol bechor b'nei Yisrael, Badam uva behema beyom hakoti hol bechor be'eretz Mitzrayim hikdashti otam li.
Va'ekah et haleviim tahat kol bechor b'nei Yisrael, va'etna et haleviim netunim le'acharon u'levana mito b'nei Yisrael, la'avod et avodat b'nei Yisrael be'ohel moed u'lechaper al b'nei Yisrael, v'lo yihiyeh b'nei Yisrael negef b'geshet b'nei Yisrael el hakodesh.
Vayas Moshe ve'Aharon ve'chol adat b'nei Yisrael laleveim kechol asher tzeva Adonai et Moshe laleveim kenasu lahem b'nei Yisrael. Vayitchatu haleveim, vayichabsu bigdehem, vayanif Aharon otam tenufa lifnei Adonai, vayachaper alehem Aharon l'taharam.
Ve'aharehen ba'u halavim la'avod et avodatam be'ohel moed lifnei Aharon v'lifnei vanav ka'asher ziva Adonai et Moshe al halevim ken asu lahem
של אמור, זאת אשר ללוויים מבין 25 שנה ומעלה, יעבוד לצבאות צבא ועבודת אוהל מועד.
ומבין 50 שנה ישוב מצווה העבודה ולא יעבוד עוד, ושרת את אחיו באוהל מועד, לשמור משמרת ועבודה לא יעבוד, ככה תעשה ללוויים במשמרותם.
Yasher Koach. This time we turn in our prayer books to page 253. In the presence of our Torah, we offer prayers of healing, and we also note that towards the conclusion of our Torah portion this week, we find the words that Moses called out to God when Sister Miriam became stricken ill. He spoke and called to God, El na refanalau, please God, heal her. And so, just as Moses called to God in that moment of pain, in that moment of despair when his sister was ill and in need of healing, we too call and yearn for healing for those dear ones in our lives. In our congregation this week, we offer prayers for healing for Ruth Ann Blank, Priscilla Bressler, Cheyenne Cates, Esther Schmelnick, Wendy Curette, Bobby Denny, Marty Gellender, Terry Howard, Ethan Kadish, Florence Lewis, Lauren Mandel, Kimberly Pusel, Betty Sherman, Nancy Polliger. We add those names to the names we say in our hearts. We say, Baruch atah Adonai, Rofei HaCholim, blessed are you, Adonai, who brings healing to the sick. Page 253, the words of Misha Berach.
May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mishaberach imoteinu mekor havraha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shelema, the renewal of body.
now rise in honor of the Torah.
וזאת התורה ששם משה לפני בני ישראל, על פי אדוני ביד משה. לי לי לי
Page 256, we prepare to return the Torah to the Ark.
עץ חיים היא למחזיקים בה, ותום המאושר דרכי נועם, וכל נתיבותיך שלום. השיבנו אדוני אליה ונשובה חדש ימינו, חדש ימינו כקדם.
May be seated. I want to share two brief stories. And I'm not sure which order they happened. Back in September, we had offered the Bnai Mitzvah class. We had put it out in Tikva Topics. Figured we'd have 12 to 15 people in the class. Holidays came early last year. Mid-September, Rabbi, there's like 18 people in the class. Oh, that's great. 3 days later, Rabbi, there's 22 people in the class. Are you going to cap the class? You going to allow anybody else to enroll? We're not capping this class. Rabbi, there's more. What are we going to do? How are we going to all have bar bat mitzvah on one night? Figure it out. Rabbi, there's 25 people in this class. All along the way, been asked to say, well, is that enough? The reason I did not cap the class was because there are moments in our adult lives that don't come across us too often. But when you have the opportunity to do something, and if there were enough people who wanted to become adult B'nai Mitzvah this moment in this year, maybe in 2 years when we offer the class again, something might be going on in their lives that prevented them from taking it. And then another 2 years have passed, or 4, or 6, or 10, and we've missed perhaps an opportunity. And so like I do with most things, we figured out how to make it work. Second story. Valia came to me, Rabbi, are you sure this class is only going to be 1 year? She's nodding. She agrees. I said, Valia, yeah, they're starting October, and we're concluding in June. Well, don't you want to do it the following June in 2006? No. 1 year, I promised them, 1 year. How are we going to read Torah? We'll figure it out. And somehow, miraculously, Valia figured that out. Yasher Koach is right. Thank you, Darla. For some people sitting on the bima and sitting in the front rows here, Hebrew letters were never recognized. For some, they had learned Hebrew many years ago, and it came easy. I said, well, maybe they'll ask to opt out. I tried to do that at certain classes and requirements. No, never happened. With the class this size, I was concerned that there might not be a feeling of community. Because for me, the best part of an adult Bnei Mitzvah class is really the community coming together. This group of individuals who had individual goals and individual expectations would come together to form a collective group, a chavurah, a kehillah, a community within our larger community. And that's what they've done. They've studied together. They've struggled with Hebrew together. They looked, how would you, this is the metaphor I told them I would describe it at the end of the night. So our classes would end at 8:30, 8:40, probably more like 8:45, 9 o'clock, right? On Monday evenings. They were like sponges that could not hold another drop of water. They had experienced so much in short 2.5, 3 hours from Hebrew. Some days it was Torah. Some days it was prophets. Some days it was Talmud, Midrash. There were sessions in which they spoke of this Ayin Gauge where we discussed Israel for 2 hours. Not enough time, actually, if you ask me. You could go for 4. The journey is a powerful one. In our Torah portion this week, from the later part of the portion, there are verses that read of a prayer that Moses would say when the Israelites would set off from one spot to the next. Just 2 verses. And then there's something interesting about those 2 verses, which I'll share in a moment. These verses, Kuma Adonai, often translated as rise up or advance, O Eternal One. May your enemies be scattered and may your foes flee before you. And when it halted, when the ark would halt, Moses would say, return, Shuvah, O Eternal One, you who are Israel's myriads of thousands. Kuma Adonai, rise up, Eternal One. The Hasidic masters teach us that these words indicate that God should look at the higher essential connection that God has forged with the people Israel. It is these words in which Moses is imploring God to remember that the relationship with Israel goes deeper than the covenantal relationship that Israel formed with God. Deeper than the covenantal relationship that is formed through the mitzvot, through the observance of commandments. In these verses, we read about the enemies, and perhaps at that time it was indeed enemies that Israel would counter on their journey, but perhaps in our time, the enemies represent the obstacles along our path. The obstacles that prevented us from learning Hebrew. The obstacles that prevented us from becoming bar bat mitzvah in years prior. The obstacles that will prevent us from doing the and accomplishing our dreams in the future. And when the ark would halt, Moses said, Shuva Adonai, may it be your will, O God, that Israel's myriads return safely, and not one of them missing. Each and every individual is a critical piece in receiving Torah. Each of us does so in our own capacity to learn what we can learn. Return us safely. Take risks. It's a huge risk to stand up here and read Torah. It's a huge risk to give up 3 hours on a Monday evening. What does that mean for my family, for my household, for the rest of my life, all the other things that I'm responsible for? Return us to our fortunes, to life renewed. And I think that each of you in this moment, each of you as well, in this moment stand with a life renewed, with a new and profound connection to Judaism, new profound meaning and insights to this mysterious tradition that has eluded us for years, continues to elude us, continues to inspire us to ask why, continues to make us think about how we can connect and develop a powerful Jewish identity. It's perhaps these words that invoke Psalm 121, which at the conclusion of the psalm seek God's protections upon us as we move forward, as we set forth on our journeys. What's really interesting about these verses is that they are bracketed. You just learned the Hebrew letters, you'll appreciate this. They are bracketed by 2 upside-down nuns. Yeah, I see some puzzled looks. Why is that? Well, no one actually knows why. Perhaps they represent the Ner Tamid, the eternal light. Perhaps they represent nitzotz, or sparks, that reflect that each of us needs to continue to be the spark that lights up the eternal night, or each ner of the menorah for Jewish life, for Jewish learning, and for Jewish values. Each of us has a spark, and at different moments on our journeys, they ignite a path for us and for others to follow. So if you're with us this week, if you're with us next week, perhaps one of the 25 journeys that you'll hear will be a spark for you, so that in a couple of years, you might find the desire to stand here and become adult bar or bat mitzvah, or you'll return to your home communities and have that same inspiration and talk to your rabbi or your cantor and say, hey, how can I become an adult bar or bat mitzvah? I want to read Torah. I want to learn and find the sparks for my own Jewish connection. Each of these individuals has found a spark, but ignites a spark for us as well. I have a gift for each of you, and I like to ruin surprises. So I'm going to tell you what the gift is, because I actually chose it because of you. Rabbi Lawrence Kushner, who many of us know, is one of the great mystical teachers of our day. Many years ago, I think it's over 30 at this point, I don't remember, he jokingly signed up to teach a seminar on the Hebrew letters. People were very excited. What do you mean you're going to teach a seminar in the Hebrew letters? Well, the book that I am presenting you is what follows. Each of you has been inspired to learn more, to uncover the deeper tradition and meanings of our prayers, of our words, of our Hebrew language. And each page of this book takes a letter of the Hebrew alphabet and beautifully, both in the words themselves, but also in the way they are written, present the beauty of this book. And so, in addition to your certificates that we present to you in honor of your bar and bat mitzvah, we present you with this gift. Take it home. Read it. It's easy reading, but it makes you think, and it makes you uncover, and it covers the depth and breadth of Jewish tradition that I think answers some of the meaningful questions that you are searching for. So I'd now like to invite each of the members of our Adult Bnai Mitzvah class. Let's save applause. And again, at the end, we'll say Yasher Koach to each one. Darla. Yeah, thank you, Marissa. Yeah. Too many things, not enough hands. Cindy Barker. Debbie Ecker. Shelley Engler. Shelley Igdala. Jackie Kahn. Rhonda Moskowitz. Stacey O'Connell. Patty Price. Josh Reineke. Diane Sachs. It helps that they're all sitting in relative alphabetical order. Carol Sliger. And Wendy Stern. On page 341, Yasher Koach, there you go. On page 341, we turn to hear the words that our class studied on our very first session together, the words from Genesis 12. Lechi lach, lech lecha, go forth, you shall be a blessing.
Lehilach, to a land that I will show you. Lehilach, to a place you do not know. Lehilach, on your knee I will bless you, and you shall be a blessing. You shall be a blessing. You shall be a blessing. Lehilach. Lehilach, and I shall make your name great. Lehilach, and all shall praise your name. Lehilach, to the place that I will show you. Lesimchatayim, 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 lehilach. You shall be a blessing. You shall be a blessing. You shall be a blessing. Lehilach.
Shabbat Shalom again. I have been nominated or voluntold, depending on who you ask, to take a brief moment to do some additional thank yous from the entire rest of the Bnei Mitzvah class. So for each of us who has gone through this, and again, there's 25 of us, there is no way that we would be here without the support of our families. As all of you heard from the rest of my classmates this evening, we've thanked our families. We would also like to thank our Beth Tikva community for the support we have received from them on this journey. We've spent a lot of time learning here at the temple and a great deal more time at home studying, learning and chanting Hebrew. So truly, to all of our families, thank you. None of us would be here without you. Speaking of family, I would like to thank the Fogel family for sharing Leah's bat mitzvah weekend with all of us. And personally, I would also like to thank the 23 families who allowed me to spend so much time with their mothers and wives. Spending Monday nights as one of two men, other than the rabbi, in a room full of 23 intelligent, thoughtful, funny, and beautiful women is not a bad way to spend an evening. But truly, there is one person in particular to whom we all owe an enormous debt of gratitude, and that person is Valia Bergelson. Valia took on what to many would likely seem impossible. Take 25 adults of different backgrounds, some with Hebrew reading skills and many without. And between late September and late May, it may be June, but we had to know these portions 3 weeks ago. Get all of us to be able to read and understand enough Hebrew that we could stand before you tonight and next Friday and read from the Torah. And to do it, she met with us weekly here, and as the weeks went on, she opened her schedule to us to meet after hours, on weekends, at her own home, or anywhere else we needed to meet to learn Hebrew. She is the single biggest reason all of us are here tonight and able to chant our Torah portions. Valia, please join me. The entire class got together, and we wanted to present you with a gift card to Oakland Nursery to purchase a tree for your yard.
I love trees.
We hope that you will be able to sit outside drinking your morning coffee and remember us for years to come as that tree grows. Thank you very much from all of us. No, you're not going anywhere. Wait, there's more. There's more. Rabbi and Marissa, if you could join me as well, please. In addition to Valia, both the rabbi and Marissa spent a great deal of time with us, teaching us about Talmud and prayer and helping all of us to better understand our relationship with our history and our faith. For all three of you, in these gift bags, we have the framed pictures. That's why we took a picture the other week, so that we could have these framed, and they are all signed in the mat around the picture of the entire Bnei Mitzvah class. So there's one of those for each of you, and there is one more thing. A donation has been made this evening to the temple in honor of these three teachers that is to be used to help with the purchase of a new Torah reading table. I wanted everyone here to know that these 25 adults came together to see this as a significant enough experience that the donation in honor of these three teachers is in excess of $2,200. So, for all of us in the adult Bnei Mitzvah class, thank you. Now, I need all of you to give me your gifts back so that I can give them to you next week.
Do you want to take this with you?
Would you just go back? This is yours.
Take it.
I would like to feel it.
Fine.
No,
Take them. This one is for you.
Thank you. From all of us, we share this journey together, and as Debbie Friedman wrote, you are a blessing, and so we thank you from the bottom of our hearts. We turn in our prayer books to page 282, and we rise together as members of our Adult Bnai Mitzvah class. We'll open our ark doors and will lead us in the words of the Aleinu. At the bottom of page 282, we'll turn to page 287. May be seated. As many of us are aware, we mark the 70th anniversary of D-Day. And if it were not for those heroes, we would not necessarily be here tonight. Those who brave individuals fought and risked and lost their lives. And as the epitaph of one Canadian soldier reads, this gentleman lost his life so that Jews would not suffer. Page 293, meditation before Kaddish. Yizkor, we remember. Remember our people who suffered and died so that we could be free and secure. May their memory be more than a distant shadow. For the dreams left unfulfilled and lives taken too soon, we remember. Remember our brothers and sisters whose sacrifice kept the dream of democracy and justice alive. May their courage be our inspiration and strength. For life cut short and vision unrealized, we remember. Remember the fallen of our armed services, the victims of terror and tragedy. May the darkness of their loss not obscure the light of peace. They were in love with our land and in love with life. For the agony, the tears, the mothers and the fathers, for the children who were and for the children yet to be, we remember. We remember those who lost their lives fighting for our freedom, fighting for freedom in the world. We also remember Gloria Albert grandmother of Jennifer Sandro, passed away today and will be laid to rest this week. We remember those whose yahrzeits fall on this Shabbat: Evelyn Aiden Barsky, Gerald Cohen, Max Engler. We remember Adolf Fader, Violet Feinstein, Evelyn Fertel, Janet D. Gellis, Rose Goodman, Ruth Meltzer Levine. We remember Leonard Lewis, Rose Foreman Richardson, Marilyn Robbins, Albert Rosenberg, Francis Seltzer, Adele Silverman, Milton Steierman, Meyer Sylvan, David Ward. If I mispronounced a name, or if you'd like to add a name to those whom we are remembering, I invite you to share that name with us at this time. The memories of all of them are with us. So we turn in our prayer books to page 294, and we invite members of our adult Bnai Mitzvah class to lead us in the Mourner's Kaddish.
Yitgadal b'yitgadash shmei Rabbah, v'yamad divrei hirutei, v'yamlit malchutei, v'hayehon u'v'yamehon, u'v'yahai dehol be'Yisrael, v'agalah uzman karib v'yimru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah v'mevorach, le'olam olamai olamaya, v'yitparat v'yishtabach v'yita'ar v'yitraman v'yitaseh, V'yitadar, v'yitaleh, v'yitalal, shmei dekudshah b'rihu. Le'olam mikol b'hirata v'shirata, tushbachata v'nehemata, da'amiran b'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlema rabban v'yishmaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mramav, hu yaseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael. Amen.
I want to invite the entire class, all of you as well, to come join us on the bima. We stand together. We are going to conclude our service on page 353 with words of peace. Od yavo shalom aleinu. May the gift of peace that has been given to us this evening be a gift of peace that will continue on throughout our week and throughout eternity. We invite you to join with us next week. It's not part 2, it's just continued. Page 353, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu.
Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu ve'al kulam. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu ve'al kulam. Salam Aleinu ve'al kol ha'alam. Salam, salam. Salam aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam, salam. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu ve'al kulam. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu ve'al kulam. Salam aleinu ve'al kol ha'alam. Salam, salam. Salam aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam, salam. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu ve'al kulam. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu ve'al kulam.
Gabriella, in 2 months, you won't have the option of leaving the Beamer. We join in the words of Kiddush, page 5.
Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'ratzavanu, v'shabbat kodsho, le'ahava u'ratzon hinkilanu, Zikaron lamahaseh bereshit, ki hu yom tehila lamikrae kodesh, zeher letziat Mitzrayim, ki vanu v'acharta, ve'otanu kidashta, mikol Mekadesh HaShabbat. Amen. L'chaim.
We join together in Motzi. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam,
Hamotzi lehem min haaretz. Amen.
Shabbat shalom, everyone. Mazel tov. You gotta dive in here. Someone's gotta say, eat a piece of. All right, I'll just do it.